Monday. Hope everyone's having a good start to their week. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have deleted all of my previous videos up until today. And the reason being is because I had a little bit of an exposure and I had to unfortunately cancel that old account and transfer my funds to this new account right here. And that's what I'm showing you guys right now. But luckily for us, even though we do not have my previous picks, I have a whole bunch of new picks to share with you guys. So let's get started. All right. So for this week, I'm looking at a lot of stocks right now. I bought into a few S&P 500, and I'm sorry if I don't have the charts drawn out already for you guys because, like I said, I had to move my funds and make a different account. And so this platform, I'm still on Thinkorswim, but this particular account doesn't have the same drawings that I had in my old account. So, anyways, this is the S&P 500 right here. That descending wedge, I had to redrew it for you guys. You can see we have that descending wedge at the break. And if we zoom in on the hourly, we have that resistance right here that I drew. So it's something to pay attention to. If you guys watched and keep up with what I did say, I know they're deleted videos, but I did expect that S&P 500 was going to get to all-time highs again. And we're seeing that break of the descending wedge, which is very nice. The EMA, which is the blue line that I have right there, is pointing up, which is great. It broke both the EMA and at the same time, it broke the descending wedge as well. So that's great news. It's really going to be hopefully a uptrending from there. So that was just this month right here. This little pullback was just a pullback, hopefully. So let's get started with the picks that I'm looking at for this week. Apple is the very first one, AAPL. Apple is a descending wedge. It's looking beautiful. We could have got in, honestly, on Thursday, but I didn't see it before or during last week. I noticed it when I did my research on Saturday before this week. So we had that descending wedge, the nice break. I'm almost always confident in investing. If I see a nice pattern, I'm almost always confident in investing in the top tech companies. So Apple, Tesla, Amazon. If I see a nice pattern in them, typically they're always valid because these stocks are typically always uptrending. This is it during the past 5 years, okay? And then with this descending wedge, look what it did in the weekly put chart right here. I'm on the weekly chart. It had a nice flag and it pulled back to the EMA with the descending wedge or flag, you can call it. It pulled back to EMA and now it's testing EMA and coming right back up again. So I'm thinking this is going to be a very, very solid stock to invest in right here. So that's what one I bought in this morning. ABM is the next one. It's a symmetrical triangle that I have. We have this little line of resistance that I saw on the hourly. So once we can break that, we can confirm that it'll be coming up again. But we have to make sure that it also breaks the top of the symmetrical triangle too, or else it's not going to validate the pattern. That's what we had there in the weekly. I haven't bought into these where I'm a breakout trader. It's nothing's going on quite yet. So I have that alert set right there. Okay. ACVA is the next one. Now, this one is a little bit questionable, and me and my buddy were talking about this when we were doing the research. We see the descending wedge here, and we see the break as well, right? And it looks pretty solid with this break, and then now today it's touching the EMA, tested a little bit. What's questionable about this, though, is that a descending wedge would typically be if I remember correctly, it was a reversal pattern. But with this right here, we don't have much information to determine where the stock was going prior to this pattern. It's just it IPO'd in March of this year. And since March, so we have 7 months worth of information. Is that enough to determine if, for example, something like what's a nice descending wedge that I can show you guys? That Apple, sure. See, Apple, we have that descending wedge, but it's after an uptrend, right? This one right here with ACVA, we don't have much information on it other than the IPO date. The whole chart is a wedge pretty much, but it is looking good. The weekly, it's below the EMA, which is a little concerning, but on the daily, it is above the EMA. So if we go on the hourly, we notice any resistance that we have. Here's one right here. So that would be a nice time to buy at this resistance right here. That would make me a little bit more confident. So if I were to buy at the break of that resistance, I still have a 57% reward compared to where I'd set my risk about 15%. Okay. So that is definitely a 1 to 3. We're going to be moving on here to AGI. AGI is a clear example of a pattern within a pattern. And this is what we want to see, okay? Typically with these descending wedges, every now and then before the break of the wedge, I'll spot like a double bottom or something like that, similar to HOMB. And we'll take a look at that right now. HOMB, we have the descending wedge and this resistance that it consolidated on that support. I mean, not resistance, sorry. A descending wedge consolidated on that support and bounced up. That's what I want to see with AGI right here. But instead, what we have is, I'll zoom in on the day, we have that descending wedge. We'll go back on the weekly so you guys see the overall picture. The weekly pattern, the descending wedge in the red that I have there for you guys. You can see it's clear as day, right? Within that, I have the purple that I drew for you guys as well. That's another descending wedge, and that descending wedge broke. We could either have an area of confluence on that miniature descending wedge inside the descending wedge, right? We can have an area of confluence right here and hopefully come back up and break the bigger pattern. Next up, AMRS. This might be a longer video than most, you guys. I do have a lot to go through, and I want to make sure you guys have as many options as possible for when you guys to take your next, your next position. So this is AMRS right here. This is a symmetrical triangle. Continuation pattern we would want to see, right? Uptrend, we got the triangle. It's been consolidating in the triangle quite nicely. EMA within the triangle as well. So now what we're waiting for is a break right here. And the reason why I have a break right here, and I'm probably going to wait for it to break a little bit more than just where I have the alert. But if you zoom in the hourly, we can see that kind of line of resistance right here. We have touches right there, touches right there. We're waiting for another touch now that we've bounced off of our trend line, of our symmetrical triangle bottom trend line, correct? So we're going to be waiting for the break of that alert. And then from the break of the alert, I would want to see either it reject the top of my pattern or break the top of the pattern. And from there, I would determine whether I want to take a position in the stock or not take a position in the stock. Okay, go back to the daily. I always start looking at the daily first, and then I'll zoom out and zoom in to see what the overall pattern is happening. But the daily is what I take most of my positions on, so just so you guys know. ARMK. ARMK is the next one. Boom. Okay, so this one is a descending wedge. It's pulling back. We saw the break right here. Very clear break. Look at the volume, right? Big volume, big break. Came up, had that tip right there. It had a top, and now it's coming back down. And this is what I want to see right here. This is a nice retest of the EMA. It's not necessarily touching it, but it's a green candle. Hopefully what we see from here is, boom, back to the EMA. The EMA is hopefully going to be climbing like that. Boom. It'll continue to ride up. That's what we want to see. This kind of a pattern right there. That's what we want to see. And we want to ride that until we reach the goal, which is typically going to be the top of the wedge, correct? So this would have been probably a decent time to buy, especially look at this volume too. I just noticed this. Look at the volume on this small little candle. That's a great thing to see when we're pulling back like that for the past almost week. We pull even more than a week probably. A big pullback like that, right? We had the top of the breakout, consolidated, pulling back, and then today we bounced, not necessarily bounced, but we're staying above the EMA, right? And look at that big volume right there. It means everyone's trading it. So that's a great thing to see. I should have bought in. That's my fault for not paying enough attention. I mean, I have 2 pages of stocks to share with you guys. So that's all right. There's going to be more opportunity down the line, right? Always remember that. Next one is ARI. ARI is, that is not ARI. ARI. There we go. Okay. So this one is a little bit of a tricky one, okay? So this, to me, what I see is a descending triangle or a symmetrical triangle. It's a little bit confusing. It depends on where you draw. It depends on where you draw your lines. And this is just a clear detail of you'll never know exactly what's going on with the stock. Like my patterns might not always be descending wedges. They might not always be accurate. So this is a clear representation of where it can get a little bit confusing, but you have to still always have a plan no matter what. Even if it's not a pattern that you think it would be, even if it's 2 different patterns or whatever, always have a plan when you get in. So what would I do with this? I would still want to trade a breakout, right? The top resistance line, the top trend line that I have is looking solid, right? When other than this false breakout here, but we're having that. And what I would want to do is zoom in on the hourly, see if I can find any resistance, which I can see one right about here. If I get a break from that resistance along with the break of the upper trend line, right, which is this one right here, if I get a break there, then I can consider taking a position. Then maybe this would be a uptrending pattern from there. And even better news to back that up, if we go on the weekly now, look how long it's been uptrending for. It's been uptrending since March of 2020. That's COVID right there. So this thing's looking pretty good. And hopefully we can come back up and ride the highs where it was before. That's ARI, okay? Go back. Next one is ATC. ATC is a symmetrical triangle. You see I have this alert right here. Symmetrical triangle. We want to see a continuation of this uptrend here. That's weekly. Zoom in the hourly. That's where I got to that alert. I see that line of resistance right there. I set the alert right there to see the break. Once I see the break of that alert, either it's going to retest. It's either going to retest and come back down, or hopefully we get the break of the alert, which is also going to be the break of the pattern as well. That would be the nice breakout, and that's when I would consider buying into this stock right here. So I'm paying attention to that one. BALY is a dip buy opportunity. Is that what I wrote? Yes, it is. So we have this nice resistance right here. I drew that based on the hourly. This is the daily chart. It's a descending wedge. We had the break. We had the top of the break right there where it came up, right? And from there, we were able to draw that line of resistance. And we drew that right there in the hourly. Touch, touch, touch right there. So what I would want to see is another break of that resistance. Then I would be more confident in buying this stock. And even we have to make sure that the risk reward is still there for me. So based on where I would sell it, which is the top, the reward is a 34% reward to the risk of probably about 11. So it is 1 to 3. It's a little teetering a bit, but is it worth it to me to get into the stock at that break? Yes. I could buy in right now with a smaller position, anticipating the break of that resistance right there. That's up to you and how you want to play and how you want to risk it. Next one is Baidu. Baidu, I bought into this one quite nicely. This is a double bottom, a reversal pattern. So we have a nice long descending pattern right there. It's descending, and then boom, we have a neckline, a bottom, and we have the break of that neckline today based on this gap up. And the nice thing about this gap up too is look at that volume. It broke our neckline, and we had nice volume that day to confirm that, okay, this is probably going to be a breakout. Not necessarily confirmed, but to give us a little bit more data on determining whether this stock is going to be uptrending or not. So I'm relying on that one right there with the volume, with the above average volume, the double bottom, and the break of the neckline. How it gapped up above that. Big C, BIGC is another one. Big C, descending wedge right here, okay? We had a descending wedge. The break right here, which was on this green candle, we had bigger volume than average, right? Average volume probably right around here. On the break, we had bigger than average volume right there. Is it hard for you guys to see with my face in the way? I hope not. But we had the break, came down from there, and it came up. If we zoom in, this is a little worrisome because these past 3 days has pretty much just been consolidating, right? Right about right there and right about right there, right? There's our support and resistance. We're trading within a small little just box. And what I would want to see is a break of that box before I can buy in and make sure the risk reward, if it breaks about right here, I can set an alert. If it breaks right there, our reward would be 28%. I'd probably sell around 7%. That's a 1 to 3. I like those odds. I could take a position now or wait for the break. That just depends on how you want to trade and how risky you're willing to get. BIDP. BLDP. Sorry, BLDP. Descending wedge. This one was another little tricky one. I couldn't tell what exactly it was. I have those two circles there because I want to say it was a double bottom. However, the neckline isn't super clear to me, and that's what's trippy about this one. So I also drew a descending. I also drew a descending trend line going down to make a little bit of a descending wedge as well too. So we have those two things. So I could wait for a break of this resistance. I wouldn't want to call it a neckline because we have these false breaks right here. Resistance almost, and we got a break there. We could ride it up 30% and sell it to probably about 10%. So it's good 1 to 3 risk reward right there. And we can also buy in right now, anticipating the break of this neckline right here or resistance. I guess they're the same. BLTP CIM, a 15-minute long video. Wow, I talk a lot. CIM, an ascending triangle. And I like this one so much because ascending triangle is a continuation pattern. It has been uptrending since since pretty much COVID, right? It's been uptrending since COVID, and hopefully we can ride that ascending triangle up and to the moon it goes. I mean, there's no really close. The next resistance I see is about right here to $19. All the way from where it is to $19 is a nice 24% gain, 23% gain. To where I would set my stop loss. Daily, I set it based on daily. If I buy at the break, I'd set my stop loss probably about only 3%. That's depending on how long I want to ride it for. It looks like it would be a long ride, but let your winners win, right? So this one, I like this a lot because of that uptrend, and it's very similar to CalX. CalX is another very nice ascending triangle that we have. We have the breakout, and look, we had that sell-off, which is kind of a big sell-off, but hopefully we just stay above the EMA and we could bounce the EMA as well. So that's CIM, which I really like. CNHI is another one. CNHI, symmetrical triangle. I have this alert right there, the yellow line. Zoom in on the hourly. That's where I got kind of that resistance right there. So that's where I'd want to see the break. Ride it up to about 9%. Sell it down for about a 3% loss. That's a 1 to 3. I like those odds right there. As along with how we had the symmetrical triangle came after an uptrend as well, which makes me feel a little bit more confident about the direction of this particular stock. CNHI. Oh, that is this one. Sorry. DEN is another one. It's a symmetrical triangle. We had the break. We have the break right there. The only thing I would like to see is probably a little bit more volume. Not much of a big pullback wick like that. That makes me a little bit unconfident. I didn't buy into this one, but the nice thing about this one is that it has been going based off of an uptrend. So that makes me a little bit more confident if I did want to buy in this stock. Who knows where it would go? We could definitely say we want to sell it at the top, but that's only a 6% to like a 5% loss. That's a 1 to 1. We don't like those odds, right? But this one doesn't have a next resistance. I mean, we would expect the next resistance to be at the highs, but based on the uptrending pattern of the overall chart and based on the symmetrical triangle we have, we would expect it to blow right past those all-time highs. So that's DEN. Gold. What did I have on gold? I believe I had a descending wedge, of course. Right there. And again, I'm sorry I don't have these patterns already drawn out for you guys. I did end up changing my accounts, and this is a new account, so not all the patterns are there already drawn out. Gold. This one right here, gold has an index, and that's /GC, gold futures, right? So when you're trading based off of when you're trading stocks that you can use indexes for, I highly recommend always make sure you take a look at the index, because you want to see what the overall pattern of gold indexes are doing, right? So you could say there's that wedge right there, that descending wedge. We have it. It's a green day today. If we go on ticker symbol gold, it's a little bit more stagnant today, but look at this break of this particular pattern right there. We're still on top. We're above the EMA, right? So it's more of a pullback. So GC, what is /GC looking like? It's a breaking up, but it's not breaking the overall pattern yet. So when we get a break on both, then we could consider taking a look at gold. Lastly, RIOT. And I discussed this one on Thursday. I bought this today with the anticipation of it coming up to here. And I could sell right there for a good risk-reward ratio. But I bought in. I have my alerts set down here. So when it does come down, I could be prepared to sell it and cut my losses. But I see a big symmetrical triangle right here. And what's funny about this one is I believe it follows like Bitcoin in those cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is clearly on an uptrend. It's looking sky high, right? So I would expect Riot blockchain to come up as well and break this symmetrical triangle that we have. All right, you guys. So that's that. That's what I'm looking at this week, you guys. If I find more, obviously I'll share it with you guys as soon as I get the chance. I know this is a longer video than most, but I wanted to make sure I had a lot of stocks to talk to you guys about. That way you guys not only have your own research, but have everyone else's, or not everyone else's, but have extra opinion on what to invest next in. So with that being said, you guys have a great rest of your week. I hope you guys make money, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you for joining me if you did. Bye-bye.